I want to address a comment that was left on the Victor Davis Hanson video by Uncommon Sense. It's okay when we do it is getting old. Victor Davis Hanson asks an interesting question on how should the principal treat with the dishonorable after the pendulum swings. And I wish I knew the right answer. We would have every right to do exactly as they have done, and this would put us down to their level. But we should not abuse power just because they have. By not dealing with them firmly, we leave them to strike us from behind once again. They don't see what they have done as evil, because they see the right as existential evil, and we must be stopped by any means necessary. So it comes down to this: do we fight fair with an adversary that has no intention of following the rules because they have repeatedly broken them? When I am weaker than you, I ask for your freedom because that is according to your principles. When I am stronger than you, I take away your freedom because that is according to my principles. I've been thinking about this ever since I read it, so before you comment, do watch the whole video because I'm going to say some pretty outlandish things, but I will do my best to tie them together. So with that being said, now I'm not fully on board with this, but I am coming around to the idea that not only should the right do this, but they should do it better and purge the Democratic Party from the political sphere entirely. Note I said the party, not the people, and for those of you who are aghast and thinking that this is a terribly authoritarian idea, it's not as authoritarian as you might think if you dig below the surface gut reaction. The immediate no gut reaction from the right is almost universally predicated on because we are not like them. And I find this aversive reaction rather curious. Well, to me, the first thing that comes to my mind with this reaction is it being largely predicated on fear. You fear what even your side might do if it were to gain such power. That tells me there's not a lot of faith in the actors residing in the political sphere, that they're too susceptible to the allure of power and can't be trusted to wield great power righteously. Perhaps a topic for another day, but that's something to keep in mind. The other thing to look at is what the left is up to, so let's break it down in a formula. We have the political apparatus, the tool, its weaponization for political power, this is the abuse, which will culminate in an evil end, the subversion of the state. When the right says, don't replicate this, you're assuming this formula is equal were it to be replicated on the right. You're implying even the tool itself is an evil one, and this is not true. One of the few things even the libertarians would agree to is the state must provide defense for the citizenry. What the right wishes to do is not the subversion of the state, but to preserve the state and its existing order, perhaps even restore it to a time where it was more aligned to its founding. This is not an abuse of power, this is perfectly a moral function of the state. Perhaps even learn some lessons from the current paradigm and add some strength to ensure it does not go down this slope again. And spare me this rubbish of, oh, you might violate or abuse equal rights. I don't care about your equal rights. Stop thinking of this in terms of all men are created equal. That's complete nonsense. The only way that sentence makes any sense is if you take it literally, as a man and woman had sex in order to conceive a child. Because once they're born, humans are not equal in any way except before a court of law. And even that's abused rather quickly when it comes to, say, status and wealth. But great power is not inherently evil. It is how you wield it. If you wish to wield it to forge a mighty empire of true liberty versus those whose wickedness would see one made for equality, they are not your equal, they're inferior. But when it comes to those in our midst who want to engage in subversion of the state, of its founding principles and its social order, no, those are not people you tolerate or extend a hand to. You don't treat those who won't treat you well should they get power with equality. That's putting your own survival at risk, and survival takes precedence over everything. Principles are no good to you if you're dead. Now, the reason I think the purging doesn't appear so authoritarian is related to that. Take a look at the political landscape in the United States right now. The right is going through its reformation via Trumpism, rather successfully. What's happening on the left, on the other hand, is it's being increasingly consumed by a communist-esque sort of force. The current government is not sustainable, and what's brewing in its wings is worse. They're not worthy to wield power, so you can consider them an existential threat. There might come a point to where it begins to ponder that the machine is too large and cumbersome to retool, and perhaps scrapping it altogether is the more efficient option. I'm not about to make such an outlandish claim, but the option is always there. Executing it, however, is likely to be a rather messy affair. The whole idea of balance in politics with at least two parties can only work if those two parties can provide a balance, and even then it's inherently unstable. If you assume one party is authoritarian, the right is not, but the other one actually is authoritarian, you don't have a balance. You have but one flavor just with two different intensities. That is the problem with the UK right now. It doesn't have an actual conservative party. It appears what you need is great firepower and moral actors to wield it. I'm not sure how you go about cultivating that, but that seems to be the crux of the problem. There's an interpretation by Jordan Peterson of the biblical line, "The meek shall inherit the earth," from the book of Matthew, where he says it's more those who have swords but keep them sheathed shall inherit the earth. The idea that one has a moral obligation to be strong but dangerous, but to harness this power and use it in the service of the good. And yes, I'm aware the inheritance aspect does make it sound monarchical. It's biblical. The Bible does deal with kings after all. Here's the scenario. You're sitting across from your political rivals. There's a gun on the table between you. They will shoot you if you don't take it first. So you have three choices. Grab it and shoot them first, grab it but keep it sheathed, or dismantle it. Those are your only options. So choose wisely.